How 5 different series over the course of this season has the Cardinals playing catch-up in September. This is Locked On Cardinals.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Haffern, and I'm a national radio sports anchor, born and raised in the Lou, and a lifetime Cardinals fan. And I'm your host for Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. You can follow me on Twitter, X, at JD Sports Radio, and the podcast at LO_Cardinals. Want to thank those of you who make Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us on YouTube if you haven't stopped by there recently. Would love to have you come on by. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And be sure to interact with us. Make sure you're leaving comments, suggestions. What do you want to talk about? What do you want your opinion to be expressed? Do you want me to talk about that? Like, lay it all in there for me. And obviously hit that notification button so you know when the new episodes are posted. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving the best fans of baseball all of the info about the birds on the bat. Today's episode brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB. Use the code, all lowercase, LockedOnMLB, to win $50 instantly when you play $5. So welcome in once again. Hope everyone enjoyed the off day on Thursday where you didn't really have to worry about Cardinal baseball all that much. Got a chance to enjoy some NFL football. You had those crazy storms in Kansas City that delayed things. My brother lives in Kansas City, and he was like, yeah, they just came out of like nowhere. And all of a sudden it was just pouring everywhere. You had the Ravens, who forgot that they had Derrick Henry on their team, decided not to use him last night. You had the wild finish, so that was fun. My Packers are playing tonight in Brazil against the Eagles, so I'm looking forward to that, of course. And our Cardinals are back on the field at home. They're going to be at Busch Stadium tonight against the Seattle Mariners. Here's an update on where everything is standings-wise. You know, this is something, we're at that point of the season now where you got to be paying attention what's going on around you. Not worrying about it, but you got to be paying attention to it. So the Cardinals are, just a smidge back in the division right now, 10 games to be exact, behind first place Milwaukee, although they took 4 of 6 against them in their recent series. They're a game behind the second place Chicago Cubs, who have played much better recently. They've won 7 of their last 10. Then behind the Cardinals, you got the Reds at 68 and 73. They just swept the Houston Astros in Cincinnati. And then Pittsburgh, 66 and 74, bringing up the rear in the NL Central. Now, the division, as we know, is done. All right, it's been done for a while. It's toast. Let's not even worry about it. But the wild card is still there for the Cardinals. Again, it's not likely that they're going to catch up with everybody because these teams have to lose, and it's not really happening for them. But it is there, and you've got the Braves and the Mets now tied for the third spot. The Mets are on quite a roll right now. They've won 7 in a row. They've come to life in a huge way. Then the Cubs are 4 back, and then it's our Cardinals at 5. And the mission stays the same. You don't worry about the other teams. You just worry about what you're going to do that day. You just go out and you try to win as many games as possible, and then just let the chips fall where they may. And I was talking to some buddies yesterday about the team, and they asked me, like, where did things like go wrong this year? Because to them, they're like, it never felt like the Cardinals were like a real bad team at any point, but they never went on a mega hot streak. They just kind of been floating in the middle because, they did get, a little bit hot after Mother's Day. But they were like, where do you put it where they're like, this was a bad spot? And there's a couple areas that came to mind when I was asked about this. And I was like, well, here's a spot where they kind of pooped the bed a little bit. And it was in series against teams that they should have beat, right? Like when you go back at it, check this out. You remember how May was, right? Where the team had a really ugly stretch of games. You go to Detroit, Flaherty has this awesome game against you, but you lose 2 of 3 in Detroit to a Tigers team who at the time you didn't think all that much about, but they came out and took 2 of 3 from you. That's a Tigers team, by the way, which I don't know if anyone has noticed is now 71 and 70. Like, where did that come from? The Tigers, who traded away people, who dumped Jack Flaherty onto the Dodgers and traded with them, have a roster of people that you've never heard of. Like, I dare you to name 5 people on their active roster other than Tarek Skubal, their star pitcher. And yet they're 5 back in the AL wild card. Like, it's kind of crazy. But anyways, the Cardinals dropped 2 of 3 in Detroit at the time, which you're like, that's not good. Then they come home and they lose 2 of 3 to the White Sox. We know that's not good. That's awful. The White Sox are going for the worst record in the history of baseball. 32 and 109 right now are the Chicago White Sox, and the Cardinals lost 2 of 3 to them. Think about that. Then you lose 2 to the Mets. That's pretty good. And then 3 to the Brewers before they took off on Mother's Day, because then that's Mother's Day Sunday happened, and that's when the Cardinals kind of turned things around. But that was a very painful stretch of games. That was pretty bad. They also split a 4-game series with the Rockies in June. That's bad because the Rockies are 52 and 89 this season. They're not good. You dropped 2 of 3 in Miami to the Marlins. The Rockies series was at Busch Stadium, so that's not good. The Marlins, you lose 2 of 3 in Miami. Remember that series where it was just like they just look terrible. The Marlins are 52 and 88. They dropped 2 of 3 to the Pirates and the Nationals in July, and then you get the disgusting sweep in Cincinnati in August, which, really put them behind the 8 ball. So winning every game and every series, obviously it's not going to happen. I get that. But you flip a couple of those series around, and instead of losing 2 of 3, you're winning 2 of 3, or just get one extra win in those series. And look how it changes things. You grab 1 win against the White Sox. So you win 2 of 3 instead of losing 2 of 3. You win 3 of 4 against the Rockies instead of splitting. You win 2 of 3 against Miami instead of losing 2. You win 2 instead of losing 2 to the Nationals. And you get at least 1 win in that Cincinnati series. Just 1. Like, you don't win the series, but you pick up 1 W. That's 5 games against teams that I think most of us would agree the Cardinals are better than and should be better than. And that would make quite a difference in the wild card standings for you right now. That's 5 games. How far back are you? 5 games. So, and at the time, you say things like, hey, it's early on, we still got time. And they did, and they are playing better right now, but it's probably too late. And I look at those games against the White Sox, the Rockies, the Marlins, the Nationals, and the Reds, and I see missed opportunities that has essentially put them on the outside looking in as we sit here today on September 6th. So those are the ones I'm looking at where I'm like, wow, think about that for a second. And, we always say, well, it depends on what we're going to do later on down the road. But now that you are down the road and you look back, you're like, those were the problems right there. Those were the missed opportunities. Those 5 games would make a world of difference on what the outlook of the Cardinals season is. Could make a world of difference on what the crowds are at Busch Stadium. Like, if the Cardinals were in the 3rd wild card, I would assume there would be more people there. I'm not saying it would be a sellout or anything, but it wouldn't look the way it has looked recently, I wouldn't think, when they're in the wild card spot. So, it's frustrating too, because this team is better than that. And you're seeing them play up to a better level against better teams recently when you're talking about the Padres and the Twins and the Yankees and the Brewers for 2. And, you can see that they're better than this and they're better than what they were earlier this year. It's just unfortunate that it's taken this long for things to start clicking. Speaking of clicking, Paul Goldschmidt, somebody who's picked up the pace a little bit here in August and September. In fact, it goes back a little further than that. I want to revisit the Paul Goldschmidt stuff next. Should the Cardinals bring him back, and at what cost would you accept his return to this roster next year? We'll get into it next on Locked On Cardinals. Even though summer is almost gone, you've got plenty of time to still stock up on all your favorite grilling foods. Like, with the Packers on tonight, I'm eating bratwurst. That is what I will be doing. And you can earn cash back on every purchase when you use Ibotta. So you won't have to choose between burgers or hot dogs or brats or Mets or whatever it is you're into. You can get them all. Ibotta is a free app that lets you earn cash back every time you shop. You can earn on hundreds of different items, from groceries to beauty supplies to toys. The average Ibotta user, they take home $256 per year. That's what they earn. That could cover the cost of a major portion of your day to the ballpark, to the stadium, to Six Flags, to that flight that you've been eyeing up, or a fancy dinner that you want to go out to. And other apps are going to give you points that don't really amount to much. But with Ibotta, you earn cash back that you can withdraw to either your bank account. You can put it on PayPal. You can use it on gift cards. Simply add offers in the app, upload your receipt, and voila, the money is yours. It's time that you join the over 50 million users who use Ibotta to earn cash back every time they shop. So right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta. So use the code LOCKEDONMLB when you register. Go to the App Store, Google Play, and download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back. And use the code LOCKEDONMLB. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store. And use code LOCKEDONMLB. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen today. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On MLB podcast hosted by Sully, who is here daily to provide national expertise with his trademark humor. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who's got you covered every single day on Locked On MLB, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Cardinals are back home, and remember, you can catch every pitch of the Cardinals' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Cardinals. Time for a little bit of fan feedback, a little fan interaction here as we tackle the Paul Goldschmidt situation again. This is a topic that has been on the mind of a lot of fans, a lot of media members recently because of his resurgence at the plate. Now, it was pointed out to me by a few people that maybe I've been selling Paul Goldschmidt short a little bit recently by not giving him credit for not only this recent 11-game tear that he's been on and what his improvements have actually been before that, that it's actually gotten a lot better as the season has progressed. And going back and looking, I'm like, that's fair. So let me give you a little more info on the Paul Goldschmidt progression this season, because you go to his splits and you see that in March and April, Goldie hits 236 with 37 strikeouts. The OPS plus is at 86. Remember, 100 is your medium level, right? That's league average. So below average there. 204 batting average in May, although he did hit 5 home runs that month, but 33 more strikeouts, an OPS plus of 95. June, he hits 232. 30 strikeouts, OPS plus of 78. So we're talking about a below average hitter at the major league level in Paul Goldschmidt, which is not something anybody expected. Then in July, things get better for him. And we can put up smiley Paul in this situation here on YouTube for this part. July, he hits 260, 5 home runs, 28 strikeouts. So you're seeing the strikeouts come down a little bit. OPS plus up to 102. In August, he hits 272 with 4 home runs and 14 RBIs, which is the high in a month this year for him, the 14 RBIs. Only 22 strikeouts, OPS plus up to 123. And then so far in September, he's been ridiculous, right? He's hitting 421. The OPS plus is at 240. Up until July, he was hitting 225 with 11 bombs, 33 ribbies, 100 strikeouts in 80 games. Okay, that's not good. On base percentage, 294. The slugging, 361. OPS, 655. Not good. Not good at all. Since July, he's at 280, 10 home runs, 25 ribbies, 55 strikeouts. So they've dropped dramatically. And that's over a 53-game stretch. OBP up to 318. Slugging up to 502. The OPS up to 821. Significantly better and more like the Goldie we are accustomed to in St. Louis. Now, is he anywhere near those MVP numbers from a couple years ago? Of course not. And he's probably never going to get back up to that level. It was kind of out of nowhere that he was that good that year. And I don't think anybody was expecting that season. But when you take the whole body of work this year, we're looking at a 247 hitter with 21 home runs, 58 ribbies, the OBP 304, slugging 417, OPS 721, the OPS plus of 99. So he's just a shade under league average there. Among qualified first basemen in the league. So let's compare what Goldie has done compared to all the other first basemen. He's tied for 10th in home runs with Freddie Freeman. So no slouch there. 21 home runs is not anything to just sneeze at, by the way. Goldie hitting 30 to 35 home runs is probably not something to expect anymore. But when you're in that 25 home run range, which is where he's probably going to finish, not that bad. Like, that's not bad. He's 8th in extra base hits. Pretty good. He's 6th, tied for 6th, actually, in hits overall for first baseman with the Royals' Vinny Pasquantino. That's good. That's not bad. It's just everything else overall this season has been average or below. The batting average, obviously low at 14th among first basemen. OBP is down at 20th. Slugging, 13th. OPS, 17th. He leads all first basemen in strikeouts, and he's only 20th in walks. So there's a big difference there. There's a huge gap in his strikeout to walk ratio, which is bizarre to me. It makes me feel like he's chasing things and he shouldn't be, and he's not being more patient at the plate. Obviously, things have gotten better as the season has moved on, but there's other stuff to Paul Goldschmidt, though, other than just what he does at the plate. And we always have to remember this. And it's something that I personally, I sometimes, I just kind of, cruise over and I don't really think about it as much. But the defensive skills that Paul Goldschmidt, supplies you at first base, super steady guy. Underrated aspect of his game, in my opinion. He's got a few gold gloves, but I focus a lot on the offensive side of things normally when it comes to him. And I sometimes fail to mention how good he is defensively. I mean, 996 fielding percentage this year. He's only made 5 errors in almost 1,150 innings this year, which is significantly higher amount of innings played than the guys who are ahead of him with less errors. Okay. FanGraphs has his defensive runs saved as 2, which would put him 8th in the league. You need that over at first. I mean, how many times has Goldie saved an errant throw over there from all of our infielders, Nato and Wynn and, Donnie and Gorman and all he's got? Like, how many times has he made some kind of play and you're like, wow, that could have really screwed that inning up? And it was Goldie who was over there. Can Luken Baker and Alec Burleson make those plays? I don't know yet. I don't know, but my guess is they won't be as good as Paul Goldschmidt, who just continues to be steady over at first base. His base running, like, you love it, right? He's always been a very good base runner. He's second in stolen bases, even at his age, for first base. He's got 9 of them this year, which is tied with Luis Ariz and one behind the Brewers, Jake Bowers, who's got 10 this year. So, you trust him on the base pass. You don't see him make mental errors. You always see him hustling. He's not like dogging it. Like, you see him when he puts his head down and he's going, man. It's a cool thing to watch. We know his teammates love him and respect him. The fans, the front office, we all love and respect Paul Goldschmidt. But should they try and bring him back? Or is it time to just kind of pull the plug and move on altogether? Is it time to make a clean break and just close the book on this chapter of Cardinals baseball where it's him and Arenado are your main cogs and just move forward into a direction without at least Goldie? Nato, I don't expect them to trade him. I would assume he'd be over at the hot corner again next year, but Goldschmidt's a free agent. So I struggle with this because there's part of me that wants to be cut and dry about it. And, this business side of me that says, I want to go younger, man. They haven't won much, certainly not in the postseason. They've won regular season games, but not in the postseason since Goldie has been here. Like, why are we continuing to go through the motions here with this? Let's try something different. Let's see what else can click. So going younger, a more affordable combo of Alec Burleson and Luken Baker, see what they can do together as the full-time guys next year. But, and then let's see the things that I list here, the intangibles that Paul Goldschmidt offers off the field, the improvements he's made at the plate in the second half of the season. And then that side of me, the fan side, wants to keep him around. So it's a tough spot. I think most of Cardinal Nation is split on this. And it showed up in the poll that I put on Twitter X. I asked, would you bring Paul Goldschmidt back next year? And 52.2% of the vote said yes. So that's a little under 48 said no. So, I mean, that's kind of right there. But many of the people who want to bring him back were smart about it because they had some stipulations involved in his return as far as how money looks, how many years, options, stuff like that. So I want to run through some of the responses from some of our listeners. We'll do that next year on Locked On Cardinals. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with more than 5 million members, and it's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Now, unlike other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you got to do is pick more or less on 6-player stat projections, and you watch your winnings roll in. You can sign up today and get $50 instantly. When you play $5, you don't even need to win. How about that? To receive the $50 bonus, it is guaranteed. Now, they're going with a Bears player, but one Caleb Williams passing yard will get you one win on PrizePicks every single week in the month of September. #1 overall pick. The Bears took him. He looks good on Hard Knocks, as much as it pains me to say that. And the Bears have gotten him some good weapons, man. They drafted a wide receiver as well in the first round, and then you've got the DJ Moore, and you've got the Keenan Allen, and you got DeAndre Swift. So there's some weapons in Chicago now for Caleb Williams. And let's be honest, one passing yard, not a difficult thing to do. So only 1 yard will get you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free W, so don't miss this deal on PrizePicks because it will be gone when September ends. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen today. Now, do me a solid. Go check out the Locked On MLB podcast with Sully. Prepare for the Fall Classic with our guy Sully, who's got it all covered every single day. You can find the link to Locked On MLB in the description, so you don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So for the people that said, yes, I want Paul Goldschmidt back, and there were plenty of them. There were plenty of them that said they did not want him back under any circumstances, and they were more like how I felt a couple of weeks ago, where I was just like, dude, I can't watch this anymore. It's killing me to see him just not come through anymore. And now he is. And so things are starting to teeter back in the favor of Paul Goldschmidt. I've always said from the get-go that I think the Cardinals are going to offer him something. I think they're not just going to wash their hands of Paul Goldschmidt. I think they will try to get him back. It's a very Cardinal thing to do. But the fans have spoken here, and when I asked what would be the stipulations if you were to bring Paul Goldschmidt back, like what kind of offer would you make for him? What's your deal going to be? Like, you get to be Mo. What are you putting out there as an offer on the table? And some of the responses, they make a lot of sense. Like Tyler says, $10 million with bonuses so he can earn up to $15 million. Hunter, 2 years, $25 million, team option for year 2. Thomas Covain from RedbirdRants.com, our buddy, 1 or 2 years starting at $10 million with escalators to get him up to 15 per, and make sure that he's open to a reduced role, which is a big part of something I want to bring up here in a minute. Brent says, yes, I want to bring him back with a lighter workload. Let him do a full retirement tour. Let him pitch an inning if you need to. Let him go full Pujols and Molina in there last year when they both took the mound at one point. Cameron says 1 year, $14 million. Ziggy, 1 year, $7 million. I think that's pretty low. I don't think he's going to accept that. For a while, and it's just more of these types of ideas. And, most people are right in that same ballpark between like 10 and 20 million. And I, like I said, I've been strong on moving on, but knowing that like I said, the Cardinals, I think they will offer him something. I'm starting to lean a bit more towards thinking that might not be such a bad idea, because what I would do is, like, you sit him down. You're like, hi, Paul, welcome in. You want me to take your cup? You sit him down and you just tell him, like, look, we want to keep you. All right. We're not trying to kick you to the curb. We're not trying to rid ourselves of Paul Goldschmidt. Great ambassador for a game. Love what you do in the community. Love what you do with charities, the way you interact with, the media, with your own teammates. We want you in a red jacket one day here at Busch Stadium, getting applauded by 60,000 people or whoever's going to be there for that day. We want you to finish your career here. Like, we don't want to see you go anywhere else. But we also need to be honest about what this team needs and where it's going moving forward. I've enjoyed, personally, the Goldie, Burley, Luke, and Baker kind of trio thing that's going on right now. at first base and DH. You know, I have not been a fan of having your two catchers playing, you know, one DHing and one catching. I have not been a huge fan of that this year. And I just kind of think like this trio idea, I think it's kind of cool if they continue doing that moving forward, knowing that as long as Goldie knows that these other guys, they got to get their at-bats too, okay? They just do, which would mean a few less games for him. And if that's okay with him, is he willing, knowing that we don't need him to be the everyday guy like he has been throughout his career, will he be willing to take a more team-friendly salary to do that job? Now, I don't know if that's such a bad thing. I don't know if Paul Goldschmidt's going to go for that. And if you do go 2 years, like some of these people have mentioned, I hope it is a team option, not a player option, because if things do kind of go sideways, like they did at the early points of this season, I don't want to be on the hook for another year of it. I want to be able to be like, all right, that was cool. The incentives and escalators that people brought up, obviously, great idea. Not only does it give Paul Goldschmidt extra motivation, not that he really needs it because he works very, very hard, but it's nice to know that, you know, if he does end up playing more than, you know, if he's doing very, very well and has to play more, then it'll pay off even more for him, where he's not just, well, I'm still only going to get this, even if I do that. So that kind of eases that issue. Like I said, will this be something that Paul Goldschmidt wants? I don't know. Will someone else try to snag him with a 2-year guaranteed deal of $40 million or something? That very well could happen. You know, like I said, the name, first off, is it's a name that other teams are going to be like, well, look, we could get Paul Goldschmidt on this team. You know, that's going to be something that might like be attractive to some of these other teams, even at this point of his career. Does Paul Goldschmidt want to move again? And that's why when I brought up Arizona in one of our previous shows, I was like, that's something he's familiar with, which would make sense if the Diamondbacks don't lock up Christian Walker. But maybe they don't want to do that at all. Maybe they don't want to pay for either Walker or Goldschmidt. Maybe they don't want to do that, and they're going to stay young, and they've got somebody else ready to roll into that first base slot. I don't know. I don't know the Diamondbacks roster off the top of my head right now, but I know they like younger guys. They got Eugenio Suarez, right? They can move him over to first, I guess. But anyway, this is a Cardinals podcast. We're not talking about the Diamondbacks. Anyway, but these are some things that could happen. You know, there might be some other teams, and you know, I don't blame Paul Goldschmidt if he decided to go listen to some of these offers and see what's out there for him. Personally, I feel like he would enjoy spending his final years in St. Louis, but maybe he wants to go chase a ring. Maybe that's something that, like, in the end, he's like, yeah, but kind of want that jewelry, man. That could be something too. And if he decides that, like, hey, I got this chance, so-and-so has decided to give me an offer and I'm going to run with it, it's not the end of the world. It really isn't. If you just move on and then you go with Burley and Baker and you use the money that you're saving for other areas of the team. Like, it's not, that's what's great, is that I think the Cardinals are in a spot here where they can be comfortable with whichever way this whole thing goes. If he decides to come back, cool. If he doesn't, we're going to be all right. You know, we feel like we've got a little something here with Luke and Baker. You know, we know Alec Burleson can hit righties very, very well. The lefties is where he struggles. We know Luke and Baker hits left-handers very, very well. And there's really no point of Luke and Baker being down at AAA ever again. Okay. We're starting to see that he can handle major league pitching. He's got nothing else to prove at Memphis or AAA. That's just a waste of his time now. He's done everything he can down there. And, you know, last year wasn't great when he came up and he got his first taste of the big leagues, and his bat looked slow. He looked like a little bit lost. You know, he looked like a guy making his major league debut, kind of how Mason Wynn looked, where he didn't look all that comfortable and looked a little lost at the plate in his month of work with the Cardinals last year. And we've seen how that helped him, and he was able to turn things around. And Luke and Baker right now, when he comes up to the plate, he looks confident. He looks like he's got a plan. He looks comfortable, and you're seeing it pay off on the field. Now he's driven runs in what, 6 straight games now? which I read earlier is like the longest streak in Major League Baseball right now. I would love to see him get more at bats, but the Cardinals just haven't faced a whole lot of left-handed starters recently. They'll get Miller tonight, Gilbert tomorrow, Castillo on Sunday from the Mariners. They're all right-handers, so he'll probably remain in the pinch hitting role this weekend. Cardinals counter with Eric Fetty, Kyle Gibson, and Miles Michaelis. The Mariners, who seem like a shoo-in for the playoffs earlier this year, have really hit hard times. They've slipped to 4.5 back of Houston in the American League West, despite, as I mentioned earlier, the Astros getting swept in Cincinnati. They're still 4.5 back. The Cardinals are 5 in the wild card, and so are the Mariners. They're 5 back in their wild card. Offense has been the problem for them as well. Julio Rodriguez is having a dreadful year for his standards, hitting just 258. He's only got 14 home runs after hitting 28 and 32 in his first 2 full seasons. Former Cardinal Randy Arozarena is now on their team. He was traded to them at the deadline by the Braves. He's only hitting 238 with 3 home runs since the deal, only hitting 218 overall this year. Their catcher, Cal Raleigh, he's been the guy that's been their biggest offensive threat. He's got 29 dingers, 87 ribbies, the most home runs by a catcher in the league this season at 29, second most RBIs. But he does strike out a lot, 156 strikeouts this year. That's a lot of punchies. That also leads all major league catchers. As the team, the Mariners are dead last in batting average at 218. They lead the league in strikeouts with 1,430. Just a little bit better than the Cardinals in hitting with runners in scoring position. We know how bad the Cardinals have been there. The Mariners aren't that much better. They're hitting 237. Cardinals are 232. They are down at the bottom in most offensive categories in all of baseball, along with the Chicago White Sox. But they're a 71-win team because of their pitching, which has gotten them through this year. So this is certainly a winnable series. The Cardinals haven't lost a series in a while. It's been nice. It's been fun. 10-6 in their last 16. I would imagine these are going to be some low-scoring games this weekend. So you got to do the simple things right. You got to do the little things right. No stupid base running mistakes. Don't walk a lot of people. You got to limit the walks. No free passes, man. You make them earn their way on to beat you. They're not a good offensive team, so don't help them by putting people on and then putting the pressure on yourself. That is certainly something the Cardinals want to avoid this weekend. So looking forward to it. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. If you haven't already, give us a follow on Twitter X at @LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio. Like, subscribe on YouTube, help our channel and our love for the Cardinals grow. You guys are the best fans in baseball for a reason. I'm curious to see how many of you are out there at the ballpark this weekend, and I'm very curious as to whether or not this guy will be there this weekend cheering on the Cardinals. We'll keep an eye out for him. Until next time, thanks for hanging out on Locked On Cardinals.